The Hellion cluster was not a place for the faint-hearted. Bright nebula clouds stretched across the endless void, glowing in colors no human eyes had ever named. Stars twinkled faintly beyond the gas storms, like distant watchers in the galaxy. Among these stars, small colonies of humans and aliens struggled to survive, often caught between rival fleets seeking power and control. Cale Arden had flown many missions before, but nothing like this. He sat in the cockpit of his small fighter, the Vigilant, his hands steady on the controls despite the pounding in his chest. His eyes scanned the readings. A massive ship, at least 9 tons of pure destruction, was accelerating toward a small colony vessel. The ship carried a child, one of the rarest beings in the galaxy. Cale had seen the reports. The child's species was weak in body but gifted with wisdom and insight that could alter the fate of worlds. Cale swallowed hard. He knew the rules. Intercepting a ship like this alone was nearly suicidal. Yet the image of the small alien child, its wide, innocent eyes staring out from the viewport, made his decision for him. "There's no time," Cale muttered to himself. "If I don't do this, no one will." He pushed the throttle forward. The Vigilant responded instantly, its small engine straining under the sudden acceleration. The massive warship, nearly 3 times the length of a standard cruiser, roared as it adjusted course, closing in on the colony vessel with terrifying precision. Cale's heart raced. Every second counted. Cale dodged fragments of debris from previous skirmishes as he drew closer to the incoming ship. His fighter was small, almost fragile, compared to the massive vessel bearing down on the child. Yet humans had one thing aliens often underestimated: adaptability. Cale used every trick he knew, sudden twists, spins, and bursts of speed, to position himself directly in the path of the enemy's attack. The first collision was a thunderous shock. Cale's fighter shuddered violently, metal groaning under the force. His vision blurred as alarms screamed around him. The massive ship barely slowed, but the colony vessel behind it swayed slightly out of harm's way. Cale had bought it a few precious seconds. He pushed harder, firing thrusters to hold his position. The enemy ship's massive cannons fired again, energy beams cutting through space with deadly precision. Cale barely managed to twist the fighter, absorbing the brunt of the attack on his hull. Sparks flew, systems failed, and the fighter's engines began to falter. "Come on, hold," Cale whispered, sweat stinging his eyes. The child's vessel had shifted, drifting safely away from the line of fire. Cale's sacrifice had worked, but his fighter couldn't withstand another strike. Alarms blared furiously as systems overloaded. The Vigilant began to spin uncontrollably, drifting toward the dark expanse of space. Cale's vision darkened, his body trembling as he held onto the controls with every ounce of strength he had left. Then, nothing. When Cale opened his eyes, the world was no longer the black void of space. He lay on a smooth, radiant floor that seemed to glow from within. Soft light filled the room, illuminating beings he had only heard about in legends. They were warriors of immense presence, some human, others alien, but all radiated power and calm confidence. Their eyes studied him, not with suspicion but with recognition, as though they had been waiting for this moment. Cale's body ached. Every muscle screamed and his head throbbed painfully. Yet, despite the pain, he felt a strange warmth, a sense of safety he had never known. One of the figures stepped forward. She was tall, with silver-blue skin that shimmered faintly, and eyes that seemed to see into Cale's very soul. "You have crossed the first threshold," she said in a calm, melodic voice. "Few possess the courage to act without hesitation. Fewer still survive the choice you made." Cale tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Where am I?" he managed. "This is the Chamber of Champions," she replied. "A place where those who carry the spirit of heroes are brought. You saved a life when no one else could. That act has awakened your potential." Cale struggled to sit up. His mind raced. Was this a dream? Some hallucination caused by the vacuum of space? But the beings around him were real, their presence undeniable. They did not move like ordinary humans or aliens. Every step, every gesture carried weight and purpose. One of them, a humanoid with golden armor and a calm, aged face, spoke next. You have the spark of humanity, Kale Arden. Your species adapts, your species survives, and your species can inspire. That is why you are here. Kale blinked, confused. Me? Why me? The silver-blue warrior knelt slightly, her gaze unwavering. Because you acted when fear would have frozen most. You put yourself in harm's way to protect another. That choice defines you. A low hum filled the chamber, like the vibration of 1,000 distant stars. The floor beneath Kale shimmered, and he felt energy flowing through him. Not painful, but awakening. Memories of past battles, past struggles, and human resilience flashed in his mind. He remembered moments of fear, but also moments where humans had survived against impossible odds. You are human, the golden-armored warrior said, but that alone is not what brought you here. It is your courage, your quick thinking, your willingness to face impossible odds that marks you. That is why the galaxy has chosen to show you what lies beyond. Kale tried to stand. His legs wobbled, weak from the strain of the fight and the sudden transition from the cold void of space to this radiant chamber. The silver-blue warrior extended a hand, helping him steady himself. Do not fear what is to come, she said. You will learn, you will grow. But first, you must understand why your act mattered. She led him to a platform at the center of the chamber. Images appeared in the air above it, holographic and alive. Kale saw the colony ship, drifting safely, and the child aboard it, gazing out with eyes wide in wonder. Then he saw flashes of other worlds under threat, under tyranny, under fear. He realized that his single action had ripples across the galaxy. By saving that child, he had preserved hope, intelligence, and wisdom that could shape countless civilizations. Every act of courage matters, the silver-blue warrior explained. Even one human, one child, one choice can shift the balance of power. Kale felt a mix of pride and humility. He had not thought of himself as a hero. He had only done what he felt was right. Yet here, among beings he had once believed were myths, he understood the weight of his actions. The golden-armored warrior placed a hand on Kale's shoulder. Your journey is only beginning. You will train, you will face trials, and you will discover what humans can truly do when they rise to their potential. But remember this, courage alone is not enough. Wisdom, strategy, and compassion are your guides now. A soft voice interrupted the moment. Kale turned to see a smaller figure, one of the legendary warriors with an alien form, its limbs delicate yet strong, observing him quietly. And remember this, it said, you are never truly alone. Humans think they fight alone, but they can unite with allies in ways no other species can. Trust in that strength, Kale Arden. Kale nodded, though his mind swirled with questions. He had survived against impossible odds before, but this was something entirely new. The galaxy, he realized, was larger and more complex than he had imagined. And somehow, humans, fragile, clever, and determined, had a place at its heart. Hours passed, or maybe days, Kale couldn't tell. Time here seemed to bend differently. Warriors came and went, sharing stories of battles, wisdom, and trials. Kale listened, absorbing every word, every lesson. Slowly, he began to understand that his journey was not just about strength, but about learning to wield it responsibly. At last, the silver-blue warrior spoke again. Rest now, Kale. Tomorrow, your training begins. You will face simulations, challenges, and choices that will test not only your skill but your heart. Remember the child you saved and let that guide your path. Humans are not the strongest by birth but by spirit. That spirit will carry you further than any weapon. Kale lay down on the smooth floor, feeling a sense of calm he had never known. The events of the day, the collision, the sacrifice, the near death, felt both distant and vivid. As he drifted into sleep, He clutched a small thought in his mind. If humans can survive and adapt anywhere, then maybe I can truly make a difference. Outside the chamber, stars twinkled quietly, distant and eternal. Somewhere in the galaxy, a small alien child slept safely, unaware of the human who had risked everything for its life. And in the Chamber of Champions, Cale Arden began the journey that would change not only his life, but the future of countless worlds. Cale woke to a soft glow surrounding him. The Chamber of Champions was quiet, but not empty. The legendary warriors had begun their morning rituals, moving with grace and precision. Some meditated in the air, hovering slightly above the ground. Others practiced complex combat forms, their movements a dance of strength, speed, and intelligence. Cale sat up, rubbing his eyes, feeling the lingering ache in his body from the fight and the sudden awakening in this mysterious place. "Today you begin," said the silver-blue warrior who had guided him before. Her voice was calm but firm. "Your first trials will teach you about yourself, your instincts, and the human spirit. Do not underestimate them, for your species has gifts that even the strongest of us do not fully understand." Cale nodded, still uncertain. He had survived countless battles in space, but training with beings who seemed almost godlike felt overwhelming. His mind questioned, can a human truly match them? Can I really become more than just another pilot? "You will learn by doing," the warrior continued. "Fear and hesitation are your enemies. Adaptation and clarity are your allies." The first trial was in a vast arena, seemingly endless, its floor made of a shimmering material that reflected the stars above. Holographic obstacles and enemies appeared, testing Cale's reflexes, judgment, and speed. He was to face these challenges alone, without weapons beyond his own ingenuity. The simulation began. Robotic opponents emerged, moving with astonishing speed. Cale ducked, dodged, and rolled, using the lessons he had learned in real battles. But this was different here. Every move was observed, every choice measured. The holographic enemies adapted to his actions, forcing him to think faster, to anticipate patterns he could not yet see. "Humans have a unique trait," a voice echoed in the arena, though no one seemed near. It was the golden-armored warrior guiding him. "You adapt under pressure. Others may rely on strength or skill, but humans can innovate when nothing else works. Trust that instinct." Cale remembered the fight that had brought him here, the collision, the child's safety, the desperate moments where he had no choice but to act. He let that memory guide him. Instead of trying to match the enemies in raw power, he outsmarted them. He used the arena's shifting terrain, bouncing holographic walls to redirect attacks, creating openings to pass through the simulation. Minutes felt like hours, but finally the last holographic opponent dissolved. Cale's chest heaved, sweat on his brow, but he had succeeded. The warriors watching nodded in approval. He felt a small spark of pride, but also a realization. He was just beginning. The next trial was one of strategy. Cale was shown a holographic map of multiple star systems. He was to defend a colony network against waves of enemy ships in real-time simulations. Unlike the physical trial, this one required thinking, prediction, and leadership. At first, Cale felt overwhelmed. The enemy forces were numerous, their movements unpredictable. He tried direct confrontation at first, sending units to block attacks, but the simulated fleet adapted instantly, exploiting weak points. Every wrong decision meant a colony could fall in the simulation. Then Cale remembered something the silver-blue warrior had said: "Adaptation and clarity are your allies." He paused, breathing deeply. Instead of reacting to each enemy strike, he predicted patterns. He used decoy routes, feints, and indirect tactics. The human colonies, though weaker than the enemy fleets, were flexible and resilient. Slowly, the tide turned in his simulations. Colonies held, enemy forces faltered. And Cale realized something profound. Humans could survive not because of raw strength, but because of creativity and intelligence under pressure. When the simulation ended, the golden-armored warrior spoke. "You see now. Humans may seem fragile, but your species can turn disadvantage into advantage. This is why you were chosen." Kale smiled faintly, though his mind buzzed with more questions than answers. The trials were not just teaching him skill, they were teaching him philosophy, the very way humans could shape the galaxy. Over the following days, Kale trained relentlessly. He practiced combat techniques, both physical and mental, alongside the legendary warriors. He sparred with aliens who had centuries of experience. Some could move faster than the eye could follow, others seemed to read thoughts before they acted. Kale often stumbled, failing repeatedly, but he never gave up. Each failure taught him something new. When he fell, he observed, adapted, and tried again. Slowly, patterns emerged. Kale realized that while the warriors were powerful, they were often rigid in their methods. Humans, in contrast, thrived in chaos. Where others saw danger, Kale saw opportunity. Where others hesitated, he acted decisively. One day, while training in the chamber's gravity-neutral arena, Kale faced a trial unlike the others. The holographic environment shifted constantly, terrain vanished, new obstacles appeared, and simulated enemies attacked from unexpected angles. Kale's first instinct was panic. But then he remembered the child he had saved, the stakes of real courage, and the lessons from the warriors. He focused. He let instincts guide him. When an enemy appeared above him, he did not dodge. He used a floating panel as a springboard to launch past it. When walls shifted, he adapted his trajectory. Every move became a dance of thought and action. By the end, he had not only completed the trial but done so in a way no warrior had predicted. The silver-blue warrior watched, nodding. "You are beginning to understand, Kale. Your strength lies not in matching us but in being human. Your adaptability, creativity, and courage are unmatched because they are uniquely yours." Kale felt a surge of confidence. He had always thought humans were limited, fragile in the vastness of space. But here, in the company of legends, he realized something extraordinary. Humans could rise to any challenge, not by being the strongest, but by being unpredictable, resourceful, and courageous. One evening, after another day of rigorous training, Kale stood on a balcony of the chamber overlooking the nebula outside. Colors swirled in impossible patterns, stars twinkled in silent harmony, and he felt a strange peace. Yet, a part of him remained restless. The silver-blue warrior approached quietly. "You wonder why this matters?" she asked. Kale nodded. "The galaxy is fragile," she explained. "Threats rise constantly, seeking power, control, or destruction. Those who can think beyond limits, who can act with courage and compassion, will tip the balance. That child you saved, its species carries knowledge that could guide many civilizations. Protecting one life can protect countless worlds." Kale listened, understanding more than ever. His training was not about personal glory. It was about responsibility. Every decision, every act of courage could echo across the stars. Humans, though small and seemingly weak, could make a difference. The next day brought a new trial, more challenging than any before. Kale was placed in a simulation where multiple star systems were under simultaneous attack. He had to coordinate human and alien forces, not just in battle, but in diplomacy, resource management, and strategy. At first, the task seemed impossible. Forces were spread thin. Communication lagged. Systems failed. Kale felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, but he remembered his past missions, where split-second decisions had saved lives. He took a deep breath and began directing the forces, using every lesson from the previous days. He discovered ways to make humans quick thinking an advantage. He created decoys, predicted enemy maneuvers, and encouraged collaboration between species. Slowly the attacks were repelled, systems stabilized, colonies held. And Kale realized the truth the warriors had been teaching all along. Humans thrived under pressure, not in spite of it. When the simulation ended, the chamber filled with the sounds of quiet approval. Even the oldest and most experienced warriors looked at Kale with respect. "You have grown," said the golden-armored warrior. "But remember this, trials will not always be simulations. One day, the galaxy will test you in ways no chamber can. And when that day comes, your courage, adaptability, and wisdom will decide the fate of many." Kale stood, looking at the stars again. He felt ready, not because he had become the strongest, but because he understood the human strength, to rise, adapt, and act even when the odds seemed impossible. As he lay down that night, Kale thought of the child he had saved, of the colony drifting safely among the stars. He realized that training with legendary warriors was not just about personal power. It was about understanding responsibility, about knowing that even a single human could tip the scales of destiny. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, the ripple of his actions continued. One act of courage had set him on a path beyond ordinary limits. The next trials awaited, but Kale Arden now understood that humanity had a place among the stars, and that even the smallest being could change the course of history. Kale Arden stood on the observation deck of the Chamber of Champions, gazing at the swirling colors of the nebula. Beyond, training was complete, but the chamber felt smaller now, almost like a preparation ground for something far greater. The legends who had guided him, warriors of countless worlds, stood behind him, silent but watchful. Kale's heart raced with anticipation. He had grown stronger, faster, wiser, but the galaxy awaited his courage outside these walls. "The child you saved is in danger again," said the silver-blue warrior, her voice gentle but firm. "A coalition of forces seeks to capture it, believing its species can be used to control entire star systems. The galaxy cannot wait. You must lead." Kale swallowed, feeling a mix of determination and weight of responsibility. He had faced simulations, trials, and legendary warriors, but this was real. Lives were at stake, and failure was not an option. Yet he also understood something no trial could teach him. Humans were resilient, clever, and adaptable. He could face impossible odds, not alone, but with allies who trusted him. The fleet Kale would command was small compared to the enemy coalition, a mix of legendary warriors who had volunteered to aid him, and elite human pilots trained in secret during the Chamber's programs. Yet Kale knew the human advantage lay not in size, but in ingenuity. He studied the maps of the Coalition's stronghold, a planet heavily fortified with weapons and defensive fleets, orbiting a dying star. Any misstep could mean destruction. "We move at nightfall," he told his team. "Stealth, speed, and strategy. We strike fast and we strike smart." His voice carried authority, not arrogance. His team nodded, trusting him fully, not because of his power, but because they had seen him adapt, survive, and think when others would have faltered. The approach was tense. The Coalition's sensors were advanced, scanning the void for any sign of intrusion. Kale piloted the lead ship, using irregular flight patterns to confuse their detectors. The humans and aliens in his fleet mirrored his maneuvers with precision. Small teams detached from the main force, using decoys to draw attention, while Kale and the core fleet slipped undetected through a shadow of the planet's orbit. Suddenly, alarms blared on Kale's console. The Coalition had detected a small signature. A patrol fleet appeared, cutting off their path. Kale's mind raced. Direct confrontation would be suicide. Instead, he recalled the lessons from the Chamber of Champions. Humans could thrive where others would falter. "Split formation," he ordered calmly. "We bait them into the asteroid field ahead. Use every maneuver they cannot predict." The fleet obeyed. As the Coalition ships followed, they struggled against the erratic movements of the humans. Asteroids whipped past at high speed, some striking enemy hulls, others creating shadows for Kale's ships to hide. The enemy fleet faltered, confused by the human unpredictability. Kale's plan worked perfectly, and the patrol fleet was neutralized without casualties. As they neared the planet's surface, Kale's fleet observed the main stronghold. Massive orbital cannons, shields, and fleets of elite ships formed a wall of seemingly insurmountable defense. Kale studied the formation carefully, analyzing patterns, weak points, and predictable patrol rotations. "Divide and mislead," he whispered to himself. "Make them react, not anticipate." He assigned teams strategically. Some created holographic signatures to appear as a larger fleet. Others targeted communication networks to blind the enemy temporarily. Kale led the main strike force directly toward the Child's holding facility, weaving through defenses with precise calculations. Every move relied on timing, trust, and adaptability, the very human traits he had honed in the chamber. When they reached the facility, alarms blared and a squad of elite coalition warriors emerged. Kale's team engaged them, not with brute force, but with tactics designed to confuse, divide, and outsmart. Humans and allies worked in perfect coordination, moving like a single organism. Holographic illusions, unexpected maneuvers, and adaptive combat created chaos for the enemy, while Kale's core team pushed forward toward the Child. Inside the facility, Kale found the Child in a containment chamber, terrified but unharmed. Its species' innate intelligence seemed heightened even in fear. Kale approached slowly, hands raised in calm reassurance. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "You are safe now. Follow me and we leave together." The Child's eyes widened with recognition. It reached out a small hand, and Kale helped it rise. The connection was immediate, a silent understanding between human and alien. This small being, fragile yet brilliant, had the power to shape civilizations, and Kale had the responsibility to protect it. The coalition leader appeared suddenly, blocking their escape. He was imposing, with cybernetic enhancements and eyes that seemed to pierce into Kale's mind. "You dare interfere with my plans, human," he hissed. Kale didn't respond with anger. He assessed the situation. Direct combat would be risky, but the leader underestimated human adaptability. Kale feigned weakness, luring the coalition leader into a trap he had set earlier. As the leader lunged, Kale used the environment to his advantage, redirecting energy fields and forcing the enemy into a confined space. In the final moment, Kale and his allies disabled the leader's enhancements, rendering him powerless. The coalition forces, witnessing their leader's defeat, faltered and retreated. Humans and allies secured the planet, ensuring the Child's safety and freeing captive species across the stronghold. As the dust settled, Kale looked at the fleet. Humans and legendary warriors had fought side by side, combining their strengths in ways no single species could. Kale realized the truth the Chamber of Champions had taught him. Humans were not the strongest physically, but their courage, adaptability, and ingenuity could surpass even the most powerful beings when combined with unity. The Child approached Kale, eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," it said in its melodic voice, "for saving me, for showing that humans can rise beyond fear." Kale smiled faintly, feeling a warmth he had never known in the coldness of space. "You are safe now," he replied, "and together we'll protect what matters." After the battle, Kale and his team returned to the Chamber of Champions, not as trainees but as heroes. The legendary warriors acknowledged him with respect. The silver-blue warrior placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have proven yourself, Kale Arden," she said. "Not just as a fighter, but as a leader, a protector, and a symbol of humanity. Your species has potential beyond comprehension. You have shown that courage and wisdom together can change the course of the galaxy." Kale looked at the stars outside the chamber once more. He understood now that humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, thinkers, and warriors in ways no one could predict. A single human, acting with courage and intelligence, could alter the fate of worlds. He remembered the child he had saved, the battles fought, and the lessons learned. Humanity's path among the stars was not guaranteed, but it was clear. Humans could rise, adapt, and inspire. They could stand among legends, not through strength alone, but through courage, compassion, and ingenuity. Kale smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of possibility. Somewhere in the galaxy, a child's life had sparked a chain of events that would echo across stars. And Kale Arden, once a lone pilot, now a legend in his own right, knew the human spirit could achieve greatness beyond imagination. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and wonder. But humans, clever, brave, and adaptable, had found their place among the stars, and with courage in their hearts they could shape the future of countless worlds. Kale stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's potential, and the journey had only begun. After blocking a heavy ship to protect an alien child, he regained consciousness among legendary warriors.